Alright, so today I'm working on the Corolla, and the reason we're working on it is putting a new belt tensioner and a new accessory belt. Reason being is the one in there right now is squeaking very bad, especially in the morning, on a cold morning. So we're going to try and fix that today. Stay tuned. So what I already just did is right there's a 19 millimeter welded on nut head, and what you do is you grab a pry bar and you pry that towards the front of the car, and it relieves tension off of the strut there, and it gives you some wiggle room so you can take the belt off here, which I've already done. So I'm just gonna start taking her off here. And then should just come right out after a little bit of MacGyvering. There we are. And as you can see, it's a little bit crunchy. Not too bad though. But yeah. Now gotta work on getting the tensioner out. Okay, so pretty much what I had to do in order to get access to that bolt is I had to undo all the bolts for the power steering pump reservoir bracket, which is just two 10 mils there, and then I had to undo the three 14 millimeter engine mount bolts so that I could lift the engine up off the oil pan high enough to gain access to that bolt. So hopefully I can get my breaker bar in there now and get this done and over with. Alright, so now, since I was able to crack it with the breaker bar, I can just put a open 6-point combination wrench on there and just loosen it by hand till she comes out. And I'm glad that I ended up lifting the engine, because the clearance to the frame rail, I definitely would not have been able to pull the bolt out once it was loose, which it's still not, so I'm going to have to keep working on it with the wrench. And then I think that's a 12, so I'm going to be getting that off next. Alright, so as you can see, the top part that goes through the strut, that's just a nut. That's a 12 mil. I just got it off with a little ratchet. This 17 bolt that mounts the tensioner to the block is actually super long, and also doesn't like to be turned by hand. Like, I can just barely turn it with my hand now, but it's at a point where it's very loose. Like, I can just move this around, so it's almost off. I just got to work a little bit more. Like, you can see how long that bolt is. Oh my. Got to work a little bit more on it, then I think we can get this old tensioner out and start prepping the new one to put in. Okay, so here's the original part compared to the new part. As you can see, that bolt is really long. I'm glad I didn't round it. But yeah, just a couple things I noticed so far just from looking at these two. This has a plastic bearing insert that allows it to pivot on that axis, whereas I noticed this one is part of the housing itself. It's like a pressed-in soft metal bearing, which is interesting. This might actually be an OE part. It's a sense, I mean, the belt is genuine Toyota, so that just goes to show either this got replaced a long time ago or not at all from the factory. other than that, not too much is different. These strut assemblies look pretty much the same, though this one rotates a lot more freely. This one feels like it barely wants to move. It's very stiff. The bearing in the wheel is pretty loose compared to this new one. I don't know if that's good or bad, but this one I can't really feel any play in either, so that's also another good sign. There's a little bit of play here, whereas this one doesn't have any, so I might check this just before I go and put it on. But yeah, at least it's made in Canada. Okay, so the new tensioner's on. Now I just got to try and figure out the belt routing to get everything figured out. Then I'm gonna prime the strut for the tensioner, and then I'm going to torque down the bolts and then put the engine mount bolts back in, torque those, and we'll be done. Squeak free. Okay, so after a little bit of work, I finally got it routed. So we've got it on the alternator, the idler pulley, AC compressor, crank pulley, power steering is way back there. Actually, I'm gonna do some investigation. Yeah, it looks good. It's over the tensioner. Primed it 3 times, which pretty much all you do is you just pull it to maximum rod extension for the piston slowly, and then let it go back 3 times, get all the air out, and then we're good. So now all I gotta do is I gotta torque that bolt and this nut. I think the nut is 29 foot-pounds, and I think that bolt is somewhere around 53. I'll have to double check. Always check your torque specs. And then I'm also gonna have to retorque all 3 engine mount bolts, put the 2 bolts in for the power steering pump reservoir bracket, and then that's it. So alright, so everything's all bolted up. Just so you guys know, that bolt for the tensioner is 51 foot-pounds. That nut is about 28, and all of these mounting bolts for the mount are around 58 foot-pounds. So as you guys can hear, or I guess not hear in this case, squealing is entirely gone, which is a good thing for me and a good thing for my girlfriend, because she didn't really complain about it, but I'm sure she'll appreciate the mornings of no squeaky belt on the Corolla. So that's it. Once you're done that, you just put your engine cover back on. I honestly really like the way this engine looks without the cover on it, but you know, it's got a little bit of insulation padding, and because it's a winter daily car, I like to keep it on just to retain some heat in the engine. But yeah, I hope you guys found this somewhat informative video. I know I can't really videotape and do the work at the same time, but I try and explain what I'm doing in the short bursts of video that I can put into these. Make sure to subscribe for more. Cheers.